Friends, thank you very much for listening to this Faith, Hope, and Courage podcast. And this is a podcast aimed directly at the people of St. Matthew's Evangelical Lutheran Church of Bergenfield, New Jersey, during this time of COVID-19. And our congregation, many weeks ago, voluntarily decided to comply with the government's request that we shut down our operations, worship, and all operations in order to help stop the spread of the pandemic. And we have done so, and we're happy to have done so. So that's where we're at. Now, it's been many weeks yet, and the government is still stressed about this, but we happen to be willing to continue to comply with their decision. And although we're looking at a date of May the 31st to open up public worship again, we're willing to go 1 or 2 weeks into June. But we believe that by then, 1 or 2 weeks into June, at least all of the people of our congregation will have been quarantined for about 2.5 months. And that quarantine should be more than enough to ensure that we will not infect each other, nor will be infectious to others. And since we don't have visitors in that sense, good people of St. Matthew's, I think we can be confident that if we come together and join together and practice good medical ideas, distancing, if you want masks, whatever, that's okay. But we will highly unlikely the second week of June be infecting each other with the COVID virus. For this Sunday, the Old Testament reading is a wonderful reading. I hope you'll enjoy it because it's a foundational reading of the Old Testament. It comes from the book of Samuel. Now, if you remember, Samuel was a young boy who had been, Hannah was his mother. She had promised the Lord that if she had a child, she would dedicate the child to the service of the Lord's house. She did, and when the young boy was of age, she dedicated him to the service of the temple under the priest Eli. And in that capacity, we read the story about how God called to Samuel, and Samuel, being young and unacquainted with the voice of the Lord, thought that Eli was calling him, if you remember the lessons from the past weeks, and he went to Eli and said, "You called me, and I have answered." And Eli eventually perceived that it was not Eli who was calling Samuel, but God who was calling Samuel to a special ministry, to a special position in the history of God's relationships with people. Samuel was a very important person, ultimately, in the history of Israel. There are 2 books of Samuel in the Bible, 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. And this particular section of the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 16, deals with Samuel's role as a prophet. So this young boy, sort of kind of, as it were, miraculously conceived because his mother was barren, but she prayed to the Lord that if she could have a child, she would dedicate the child to the Lord's ministry. The Lord accepted that contract. He called Samuel because Samuel was especially born, in that sense, for a destiny specifically for him. He had a specific destiny. Which brings you to the question, by the way, are there people who are born to specific destinies? And you've heard me talk about this in the past, but let me just reiterate this one time more. Years ago, I would have said communism, Russian communism, Chinese communism, East European communism was supreme and going to win, and we in the West, democracy and capitalism, were going to lose. However, unknown to all of us, there were several people born just about the same time. The first one was Mikhail Gorbachev, a Russian, who became the chairman in his adult years, became the chairman of the Russian Communist Party. In Poland, a man named Jaruzelski, who became the premier of Communist Poland. In the same country, a man named Karol Wojtyła, who became Pope John Paul II. And in the West, Margaret Thatcher in England, and Ronald Reagan in the United States of America, an actor, a spokesman for GE. Now, these people, all about the same age, born around all about the same time, didn't know each other, didn't communicate with each other. They had no interaction with each other really until the right time. And that right time was about 70 years into the reign of communism in the world. Russian communism, East European communism. And through various circumstances, we have the actor Ronald Reagan becoming the president of the United States of America. We have the son of a Polish military officer, Karol Wojtyła, becoming the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. We have Jaruzelski, I forget his first name, Jaruzelski, the son also of a military person in the Poland, becoming the premier of Poland. We have Mikhail Gorbachev becoming the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Russia. All these people occurred at the same time. All of them had different ideas, different agendas. But God, I say God, used all of them, unknown to themselves, unknown to them. They were being used to bring down the East European wall in Germany. They were being used to bring down Russian communism in Eastern Europe. They were being used to destroy Russian communism in Russia, and they were being used to restore freedom of religion, freedom of thought, freedom of people throughout Eastern Europe and throughout Russia. And it was done with the help and specifically the leadership of an actor, a governor, and now a president, Ronald Reagan. And all of these people worked together to bring down a godless communist society. Now, this is, to me, evidence in my own lifetime, and I suggest it's evidence in your own lifetime, of the action of God. We always want God to intervene with some kind of miraculous thunderstorm or earthquake or fire or whatever. But God works in mysterious ways, and God brings about through the different lives of different people, through the birth, Mikhail Gorbachev said that his mother used to have a photograph of Lenin, a photograph of Stalin, a photograph of others on her mantle. But unknown to everybody, behind those photographs was a icon of Jesus, an icon of God, an icon of the Virgin Mary. And she covered them up with the communist photographs, but she worshipped, quote-unquote, worshipped the photographs of Lenin and Stalin and the others, but really she was worshipping the icons of Jesus and the like more. Mikhail Gorbachev, as a child, was baptized by his mother. Although it was totally illegal, she brought him to a church and he was baptized. I don't think Mikhail Gorbachev was ever a Christian, nor is he a Christian to this day, but these are influences. Karol Wojtyła, the Pope, he was a little guy, insignificant, an actor, a person who loved acting, who loved the theater. He became ultimately, under the Gestapo, under the Nazi regime, he became a priest, and then he became a bishop and an archbishop and a cardinal, and eventually he became the Pope of the first non-Italian Pope in forever. And he became a leader of the anti-communist movement. Ronald Reagan, a son of Midwesterners, an actor, a radio personality, a GE personality, a corporate personality, eventually a governor, became the president of the United States of America. And all these people at the same time were active in one thing, unknown to them. They were actively involved together, unknown to them, together they were acting together to bring down godless communism. And so, my friends, that's a very important lesson for us today as we listen to the book of Samuel, the 16th chapter. Then the Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided myself a king among his sons. And Samuel said, How can I go? If Paul hears of it, he will kill me. And the Lord says, Take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. And then invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do. You shall anoint for me the one I name to you. So Samuel did what the Lord said and went to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming and said, Do you come in peace? And he said, Yes, I come in peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Sanctify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. And he invited Jesse and his sons and had them come to the sacrifice. And so it was when they came that he looked at Eliab, and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is in front of me. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his appearance, or at his great height, or at his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So Jesse called Aminadab and made him pass before Samuel. And the Lord said to Samuel, Neither have I chosen this one. And then Jesse had Shema pass by, and he said, Well, the Lord has spoken to me that he has not chosen him as well. Then Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, The Lord has chosen none of them. And Samuel said to Jesse, Are all of these your sons? And Jesse said to him, There remains yet the youngest, and there he is keeping the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, Send him, and bring him before me, for we will not sit down until he comes here. And so Jesse sent and brought David in. And he was ruddy, and had bright eyes, and he was good-looking. The Lord said to Samuel, Arise, anoint him, for this is the one. And Samuel took the horn of oil, and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David, and from that day forward he was the Lord's chosen. And Samuel arose and went to Ramah. Now this is a wonderful story of God's choice. He said, Do not look at Eliab, tall, handsome, strong of structure and stature, bold and brave and masculine. But the Lord said, I reject him. And he reminded Samuel, I, the Lord God, do not regard the outward appearance, the clothing, the stature, the strength. I do not regard a person's athleticism. This is not important to me. I regard his heart. I look into his soul. I measure his spirit. And so the first one to appear to Samuel among Jesse's sons is rejected. And so are the others, 7 in number, all of them passing before Samuel, maybe good-looking, maybe intelligent, maybe having high grades, maybe being college graduates if that's possible, maybe being the wisest or the most cunning, or the smartest, whatever. Didn't make any difference. God measures the heart and the spirit and the soul of a person. And these are the things that count with God. Although they may not be important to mankind that look at the outward appearance, they are important to God. And so we have that in Ronald Reagan, and perhaps that we have it in Donald Trump. Maybe we're looking at another experience in these our days with 38 million people unemployed, with a nation in turmoil and potential chaos, with stress unbelievable upon our economic survival. We have a man at the helm, Donald John Trump. Maybe other people hate him. Maybe he's hated by a lot. David, by the way, did not have an easy time. David had a very difficult time. He was hated by Saul. He was hated by the court of Saul. He was hated by the tribes that supported Saul. He was hated by many of the authorities and